quite remarkable to see how well Bitcoin's doing actually since the war started. If you look at this chart over here, what this chart actually says to you is if you look at the day since the invasion, which was exactly 21 days ago, well, around 21 days ago, Bitcoin's actually up about 17%. And when you compare that to a whole lot of other assets, when I say a whole lot of other assets, I'm talking about NASDAQ, S&P 500, gold. Basically, you can see that the majority of them haven't outperformed Bitcoin, right? So if you look at, for example, the NASDAQ since the war actually started, you see that the NASDAQ is down 3.34% since the invasion. If you look at the S&P 500, the S&P 500 is also down about 4% since the invasion. Even if you look at gold, and gold is supposed to be the safe haven where everybody runs to in times of geopolitical tensions and wars, gold is actually down 4.41%. Since the beginning of the war. So I think there's a couple of questions that need to be answered, and I'm going to try and answer all of those questions here today. First question that needs to be answered is, why is this happening? Why is Bitcoin actually outperforming the traditional safe haven assets and the risk assets since the beginning of the war? We're going to look into that. Then we probably need to understand whether this is going to continue or whether this is a bear flag, which we're about to get. These bear flags are very, very, very common in a bear market. So the Bitcoin goes up and up and up, and just makes you believe that you're going to get into a bull market or something like that, or you're going to break out, and then they break down. But the problem is that when they break down, the breakdown is very big. So I think it's very important that we actually answer this question. Is this or two questions. First thing is, why is this happening? And the second question is this going to last, or is this just one of those bear flags? That is what today is about, and I think it's going to be one of the better shows. So are you ready to get on with the show? Because you're making a lot of faces there. All good, eh? Okay, so let's get into the show then. Wakey, wakey, rise and shine. It's a green day on the bubbles, as you can see. Just look at these bubbles. I think maybe we should just spend a little, like we haven't had a day like this for so long that maybe we should just take a couple of minutes and just watch the bubbles floating. Ironically, the run is starting on meme coins again. Like, I was looking at the data to see like which tokens were actually recovering the most in this recovery. Meme coins, believe it or not. Back to where we started. Anyway, today we do have a big show. I do want to discuss everything that we just spoke about. I think specifically what we need to understand that when we broke out of this range, or when Bitcoin actually got to 74,000, which is currently where it's trading, I guess what you need to look at is this is a range that's been going on for the last 38 days. And so it is quite a significant break. Now, the question is, does it last or does it actually fail? Now, the answer to that lies in the reason why it's actually happening. And that's what we're going to spend time on today. So if you are not already subscribed, then you must be new here. Of course, you must be new here if you're not subscribed. So subscribe to the channel. Also, if you are subscribed, or if you're not subscribed, if you're just visiting, just do me a favor, smash the like button, because that helps me get distribution. Right now, I see the ratio of likes to people is about 10 to 1. So there's 10 people to every 1 like, which means that 90% of you haven't hit the like button. All right, maybe you'll give me more and more likes as you get more excited about what I'm actually showing you today, because I'm going to show you some really, really cool. Did Run just exercise? You see, I told you, my forehead is sweating today, bro. I need to get those like oil wipes that they give people. Okay, cool. So, what do you think about the new sex on Solana? Sol sex, bro. Any sex will do at this stage of the game. Sol sex, any sex will do. Yeah. Why is he so sweaty? Why is Run sweaty? I'm not sweating. I don't know. I think it's just the reflection of these lights on me. You know what, Harish? You need to buy me powder, bro. Yeah, we need to buy powder. We need powder. All right, let's talk about it. So, we have finally broken a 38-day range, right? So the last time that we were in above 74,000, and we are now above 74,000, which is very good, because that was one of the things that I needed to talk about on the show, is whether or not we're going to get above the 74,000. We are above 74,000. We have broken a 38-day horizontal range, and we're now climbing on the way up. And I'm going to show you why I think we're going to actually continue climbing. At the same time, we have reclaimed some very, very, very strategic levels on the charts. One of them is the fib, this key fib level over here. But it's not only about the fib level. If you zoom out here, You got to zoom out really far. Look at how critical the 74,000 level is. Look at this level that it is. This here is what I call the Kamala Harris level. When I said the Kamala Harris level, this was the highest part that the chart had got to during the reign of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And so by breaking that, again, we're breaking into the new presidency, and we're breaking below or above the old presidency range, which I think is quite a key level. Breaking over the fib, the 50 fib level. Also, if you look at fear and greed's been in the toilet for a long time. And now if you look at fear and greed, let's look at the last 1 month. I think it's the highest that we've been in the last month. Have we been higher? Yeah, so this is the highest that we've been on the fear and greed in the last 1 month. Let's look at the last 3 months. Okay, so the last time that we were higher on fear and greed, as according to this chart, was in January. So again, the sentiment is coming back. With sentiment, money comes back, right? So you get the sentiment flowing back. Everybody's getting excited. Everyone doesn't want to be left behind in this Bitcoin trade, and you can see it. So if you look at Coin Market Manager and you look at, they've got this heat map where they follow all the big traders on Hyperliquid. What I'm seeing here is that this is the biggest. These are wallets with $5 million and more. So these are how do you spell it? Leviathan. It's like a big whale, right? These are the biggest whale. You can see that the biggest whales are starting to position themselves in a bullish, starting to position themselves bullish on Bitcoin. Now, generally, what happens is, first they position themselves as bullish on Bitcoin, and then they follow down into the altcoins, right? Why? Because you want to get your confidence here, and then let that flow in. So I'm expecting that Hyperliquid will go green, and I'm expecting that ETH will go green, etc., pretty soon. ETFs, money starting to flow back into the market. If you look at the last 5 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all positive ETF flow. So sentiment is changing. With sentiment comes the money flow. We're back above key levels in the charts. 200-week exponential moving average. We're now above that. That's a very key level that we're moving up the charts. 𝗙𝗘𝗔𝗧𝗪, who is the founder of CryptoQuant, says most Bitcoin analysts are now strongly bullish. Okay, so that's a very good one to look at. The Coinbase premium is now flipping. It's now gone to green. Coinbase premium shows us how the big institutions are buying in the US. When the big institutions are buying are on buying sprees in the US, that Coinbase premium goes positive. Why? Because it shows there's such a big demand on Coinbase relative to the rest of the world. The price on Coinbase increases slightly above the other exchanges, right? And if you look at CoinShares, which is a crypto product manager, where they like a money manager, they say that that they saw 1.06 billion in inflows for the third straight week now. So we've had 3 straight weeks of sentiment changing. So the big question now is, why is this happening? Why is Bitcoin dethroning gold as the store of value? Why has the sentiment changed? We're in the midst of a war. Hard to believe that in the midst of a global war and an oil war, and I'm making a video about this, which I'll drop tomorrow on the other channel, but when you're in an oil war, generally risk markets collapse after an oil war. And so now the big question becomes, why is this happening? Why is Bitcoin dethroning gold as the store of value in the beginning, or as soon as a global crisis actually? By the way, if you're watching the Bitcoin price now, 74,350, you can see it in the top left, or depending on left, right. And would I say top left, or would I say top right of where the price is? Top left, right? Top left, fantastic. Okay, so why is this happening? I don't think it's got anything to do with the war, because if it had anything to do with the war, the oil price would have told us that, right? As it currently stands, even though the headlines are, or Trump and the headlines are telling us that the US is firmly in control and that Iran have lost the war, the oil price is telling you it's on a steep upward trend, and it looks like the upward trend is here to continue for a while. And so I don't think that the US is winning the war as well as they say they do. Trump was asked when he was on Airport 1, he was asked, like, are you actually winning this war? Listen to what he said.
President, you mentioned that Iran's military has been decimated economically in other ways. Are you ready to officially declare victory? Yes.
No, I don't want to do that. There's no reason to. I think I just say they're decimated.
Can you explain?
I think that we've done damage to them right now. If we left right now, it would take them 10 years and more to rebuild. But I'm still not declaring it over.
Can you explain?
Our military.
So he's funny enough, he's not ready to declare victory. They've destroyed them, they've decimated them, according to Trump, but they're not ready to declare victory quite yet. There was some escalation over the weekend. The US struck this thing called 𝗏𝗏 Island, which is one of the key oil production islands for Iran. So apparently the US struck that island. They didn't destroy the oil infrastructure, but they did strike it. And at the same time, the Iranians are basically saying, look, the Strait of Hormuz is pretty much closed unless you're not a US. If you support the US, you can't get through. So I don't really think that there's very much happening in the war right now that is the reason why Bitcoin's going up, right? Also, if Trump is so powerful and winning so much, why is it that he's asking the other nations for help? And he's asking, listen to this, he's asking the other nations to come and help him protect or to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Just listen.
They should come in my opinion. It never made sense for years. If you go back and look at what I've said years ago, I said, why are we maintaining the Hormuz Strait when it's really there for China and many other countries? Really, I'm demanding that these countries come in and protect their own territory because it is their territory. It's the place from which they get their energy. And
so he's demanding that the other countries go in and actually find out and actually help them protect the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, the other countries are kind of saying, look, no. So Italy rejected, Spain rejected, France is hesitant, Norway rejected, Canada rejected, Germany rejected, China no response, UK no commitment. I saw this and I must say, I think it broke the internet. Like, you have to watch this.
Row, row, row your boat gently down. Merrily, 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 merrily.
Row, row your boat gently down the stream. Row, row your boat gently down.
Come on, stop! I know how it feel to wake up, fucked up, pockets broke, hell of a
It's so good. It's so
Why
good.
nobody helps me to open Hormuz?
I mean, you gotta give the guy 10 out of 10. You gotta give the guy 10 out of 10. Anyway, so crazy how this channel has finally realized how bad Trump is. No, I actually don't think, I think Trump's amazing. So why is this happening? Let's look at the potential reasons why Bitcoin is actually running while gold is not running. Zero Hedge actually says very nicely, says gold tumbles 5K as Bitcoin jumps to 70. Bro, it's 74K. Get your numbers right. And it's actually 74.5K. The regime shift divergence is accelerating. Now he means, here what he's talking about is like Bitcoin regime versus the gold regime, not the Iranian regime, right? So that's that over there. It could be, the price of Bitcoin could be going up because Saylor has been buying like a mofo again. This week, $1.5 billion worth of purchases from Saylor. So that's one of the reasons why the market can actually be going up. But if you saw when the pump started this week, it started in Asian hours. So it started when the futures opened in Asian hours. It didn't start now when Saylor would be buying. So that's the first thing. Unless Saylor's buying in Asia. So that's the first thing. He's been buying this by selling the STRC, the strike, the one that gives 11.25% dividend. He's $1.18 billion of that money was actually raised on that dividend going on. The other reason why the pump may actually continue is because we may actually be following the same pattern that we followed over here. So if you look at this, this is all the post-halving years, and you look at all the midterm election years. And what you can see in the midterm elections is that we do actually get a pump, and sometimes the pump actually goes strong, just like the pump went, I think this is 2022. So you can see it just like in 2022. It could be that history is just repeating and we're just going up like we did in 2022. It could be because Saylor's buying. It could be just like this 2022 pump, which is actually exactly what happened. Bitcoin initially recovered and then crashed. If that happened, that would almost be like this bear flag scenario actually playing out. And we'll look at that. We'll look at that scenario in a couple of seconds. So that's another one of the reasons. I think though that one of the reasons why people are actually turning to gold is to Bitcoin and not gold is because people are kind of realizing that you cannot move gold in times of a war. And I mean, I've told the story before, and actually if you listen to Mark Moss yesterday, Mark Moss actually quoted my story, but he got it a little bit wrong. But respect for him for actually remembering the story. So I think in times of war, gold's a great safe haven. You know what the problem is with gold? Is that when you actually need it, you might not be able to get access to it. Right? So I'll give you an example. Like if you're in Iran right now, and the Iranian regime has your gold stored in some kind of vault, and you think it's safe, you actually can't access that gold. Now, the main thing is that if you want to be evacuated from Iran, then the problem is, like, how do you take your gold with you? And to me, that's quite a personal story, and I'll tell it to you guys here so that you understand it. So my family, my gran is from Iraq, not Iran. So she's from Iraq. And in the 1950s, 1951, they were forced to leave Iraq overnight, basically, and to be taken to Israel. Now, what happened was that my grand's family were very big goldsmiths. And what they did was they took all of their wealth, they put it into gold, and they melted their gold, and they put it into like the equivalent of a bucket. And they took that bucket with them to the evacuation flight. And that was really their generational wealth, all melted into one bucket of gold. And the problem is that as soon as they got to the airport to get evacuated, they said, "What are you doing?" And like they said, "We're taking this with us." And they said, no, you're not. This stays behind. Right? Now, I think that might be one of the reasons why we are getting Bitcoin actually ultimately showing that it is a store of value when you actually need it. I read this tweet, and I don't know how true this tweet is, but the principle remains: is gold in Dubai is selling below market value because nobody can move it. Bitcoin is selling above market value because everyone needs it, right? So I think that, you know, when you realize how bad, when things get really bad, and you can't even trust your government and you can't trust the establishments, that's when you need something that you can actually move, that's mobile, etc., etc. And that is why I think that this Bitcoin trade might actually be coming on. You don't know how much of this wealth that is currently pouring into Bitcoin is Iranian wealth, is post, is people trying to escape the war wealth, etc., etc. Now, the smart asses here may say, "Oh, well, no, they must just put their wealth into USDT." It doesn't really work like that, and I'll tell you why. Because USDT can actually freeze funds, and they will. Alessandro says it's true. Dubai Gold is trading at about a $30 discount. So that is why it is. One of the other reasons why Bitcoin may be going up is, I mean, crazy as it may sound, is because there is this NVIDIA conference, which is happening now. It's called NVIDIA GTC. It's like that big NVIDIA conference. And when you look at this NVIDIA GTC conference, what you can see is most of the times, like you can see here, most of the times that this actually happens, what you can see, there's one here. Can you actually see those lines on your screen? Because I can hardly see them. You see, very hard to see. Research is very hard to see. Anyway, bottom line is, what this chart is supposed to show you is that when there is an NVIDIA GTC, which is this conference, generally Bitcoin tops more or less around this conference. So it could be because of that. It could also be because of this. So there is a problem in private credit, right? What do we mean by private credit? The banks lend out money to private people and businesses. It's called private credit, right? And there comes a point when there's an inability for the people to pay back this credit, and the banks have to start writing this down. Now, the only way out of that private credit cash crunch, so to speak, if you want to call it that, is to actually print more money, and maybe that's what the market's actually starting to price in. Okay, so I guess the big question now is whether this is one of those bear flags or one of those, and when I say a bear flag, it's going to take us all the way up to here and make us believe that we're going somewhere, and then it's going to drop us. But the problem is that when it drops us, either we land up back in this channel at 65, or we go into the next leg down of the actual bear market, right? That is the danger of one of these. Where would I invalidate this? So I think I would invalidate this here, or the first point of invalidation here would be somewhere around, like I'd probably go and say there. So about 75. So if we get above and close above 75 and stay convincingly above 75, then you can kind of say this is a breakout, not a bear flag. Right now, probably the craziest and most dangerous time to actually get an entry. Why? Because you may be at the top of a bear flag. Rather, if I were a trader, rather wait, rather sit out. Wait for us to go above this line over here. We go above this line over here. It's telling you that there's momentum in this market. Where is the line? I don't know. For shits and giggles, just call it 75, 76, and let's stay convincingly above that, right? One thing you need to pay attention to on the horizon, I saw this yesterday. Chinese warplanes are back around Taiwan. The world is distracted with Iran. And I mean, now, can you even imagine what would happen if China went and attacked Taiwan? Can you imagine what would happen to AI? Because all the chips are manufactured in Taiwan. Taiwan's whole economy is around chip manufacturing. So can you imagine what actually happens if that happens? I tweeted yesterday, and I think actually the President Xi read it, because 4,700 other people actually read it. I said, "Dear China, please don't attack Taiwan now. My portfolio just can't handle it. Best regards," and I wrote my name, Run. Just I needed him to know that it comes from me. Yeah, but it's important. So let's keep our eyes on that. Okay, let us look at some trades, because on a day like this, there actually are some trades, right? Big green, everything big and green, everything big and green. I think the one thing is you can see that retail investors are starting to FOMO into oils, which means kind of like regardless of the war, people are FOMOing into oil. Remember, if you want to FOMO into oil, you don't need to go and open a Charles Schwab account. You can do it on Blofin. There is a link below to Blofin, and you can trade oil on Blofin. You can trade it on leverage. In fact, that's where I've been actually making a lot of money. I've been taking a lot of trades. I'm waiting a little bit for the oil price to come down, then I'm going long again, because I kind of think that if this war doesn't end soon, then if the war doesn't end soon, then I think that we're in a little bit of trouble here. And that's why I think let's wait for it to come down. Load up your accounts. Join me. In fact, join me. I'll tell you why you should join me. Because there is a trading competition that is about to start. It's called Beat the Bear Trading Challenge. Now, what is the Beat the Bear Trading Challenge, right? Anyone can make money in a bull market. But in order to make money in a bear market, you need to be a very smart trader. Because when the rising tide lifts all ships. And so, anyone can make money in a bull market. What happens in a bear market? How many of you can actually make money in a bear market? So we've made a trading competition which lasts for another 30 days, 27 days. There is a link here to join the trading competition. All you need to do is subscribe. 30 days, 27 days. You need to sign up to Blofin using any Banter link. Doesn't matter, mine, Sheldon, Carl, doesn't matter. Anyone at Banter. Then you go and you sign up to the competition, right? So yeah, here's the competition over here. You sign up for the competition join on my team. Then you can join on anybody else's team, but join on my team. Also, if you want to take a trade on oil, you can take a trade on anything, and you can get $1,000 free position. And there's a thing of how to claim your free position over here. So that's the first thing. What else is there? Shubham, one of our analysts in Frontrunners, basically says oil's been in a rising wedge, but oil's actually been broken down from this rising wedge and may actually break down here. So wait, that's actually quite interesting. Maybe the good play here is a short on oil. I'll let you know tomorrow what I've decided to do. Right? What else? Because of the Nvidia conference, I actually took a trade. Well, not only because of that. I took a trade on TAO on one of the Frontrunner research calls. I actually mentioned it, and Alex was like arguing with me. I don't know why he argued with me. You judge.
I have a tool, and I'll pull out for you the increase in social mentions. Yeah, let's move on, because I think the people here must be very bored and tired of microstrategy. Let's talking about it. It's starting to make all those right.
Let's go back here, yeah.
Anyway, let's move on, because I think the people here must be very bored and tired of microstrategy. Let's talk about other things. I think TAO's going to pull a Zcash. I'm starting to see all the signs that TAO's going to pull a Zcash. When I say that, I'm starting to see big names talking about it. I saw 𝗙𝗘𝗏 talking about it. Barry Silbert's talking about it. It's starting to make all those right noises, and it comes from the same camp. It's that Barry Silbert playbook where he goes to all his friends and he gets all his friends into TAO. And I think if this market picks up, I think TAO pulls a Zcash. I took a big TAO position yesterday. Just to have.
Was here.
But the TAO's already been getting mentioned for quite a long time in like pretty big places. It's been on the all-in pod for the last year and a half, basically. They've regularly mentioned it in those
He holds a lot of TAO. He actually likes TAO. So anyway, luckily we did a 40% there. Not luckily, we knew what we were doing. 40% there. If you took that on leverage, that's 400% return on your money. Also, I think probably worth knowing is that yesterday I made a video which I really think is worth watching for you guys. It's called How AI Just Killed Bitcoin Forever. There's a follow-up to that video, but I think you need to watch this video first, because it talks about the mechanics of AI and how AI basically stole all the power in all the data centers, and as a result, it weakened the Bitcoin network, and it's an existential threat to Bitcoin. So you might actually benefit a lot if you watch that. So just go and have a listen to that if you have nothing better to do. Otherwise, let's just take one last look at the market. I see Bitcoin is back under 74. It's 74,000. Hardest, is there anything that you would like to say before we end the show today? Is there any message that you'd like to relay to the viewers, or? Not really, no messages. All right, well then, we'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.